It is launch day, and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has just gone live for everyone to enjoy. Now, I've been playing the last 2 weeks and have accrued a little less than 100 hours in the game, so I want to give you my best beginner tips to get you going in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, things that I wish I had known to begin with. Let me tell you out the gate though, none of these tips are specifically pointed at min-maxing or anything of that sort. Nay, instead, I want to help break down mechanics for you or show off some little quality of life improvements to make your discovery of the game easier. This is a single player narrative RPG. There's no wrong way to play. Please don't get stuck in the loop of min-maxing builds and thinking you're going about this wrong way, anything like that. My first tip is to enjoy the journey. I'll be putting out guides over the next few weeks geared towards breaking down the specifics of mechanics, but I encourage you to discover the game for yourself. It's what you spent your money on. I'm just some dude on the internet, so please play your way, and hopefully this video will help you achieve that. If this is your first time on my channel, the way I do things is by uploading the knowledge of my videos, so please feel free to look at the chapters in both the timeline and the description to get a sense for any tips you might not be interested in or what have you. As always, I wanted to be respectful of your time, so if nothing in the list interests you, please feel free to head on out. If you have not yet picked up Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, you can buy the game using my Fanatical link in the description and pinned comment. It's 10% off through them. You'll get a Steam key, and I earn an 8% commission. So it's an awesome way to support the channel. Lastly, don't forget to check me out on Twitch, where I've got game keys to give away for this game. I go live at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, so today. But let's get started on my ultimate beginner's tips to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. So one of the first subjects I want to hit on is the save game system. Of course, this is a big point of contention for those of us going into Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 that maybe didn't play the first one or didn't play the first one quite a bit. It's worth noting here when you take a look at the load game portion, and I've loaded up a much earlier save here so you guys don't spoil anything, but you can see here that you've got a bunch of different style of floppy disks. This one here with a little potion, that's one in which I've used to save your schnapps. But these gold ones are pretty important. The game will keep all of the all of the main story quests are perma saves. They'll never delete these. But any of the side quest auto saves that happen, which are these gray floppy disks, those over time will start to get pushed out of your save load game folder. Like, oh, okay, you've gone this much further into the game. We're going to overwrite those so that you don't have to worry about them. God, the music is just pumping right now. But another one too you also have is anytime you save and exit the game, you'll have these. So you have lots of ways that you can jump back to different points in the game without having to worry about too much. So the save game system shouldn't be too cumbersome. Just remember, your main story quests will always have perma saves, and your side quests will have quite a few saves in each step of the quest, up to the point where they start to overwrite themselves after a significant amount of time. Another big point here is about your perks. Now, perks are the biggest driving force of the leveling up of all of your stats, secondary skills, and combat. And as it pertains to perks, it can cause a lot of analysis paralysis. Like I said in the beginning, please play this game however the hell you want. Don't look up build guides, don't get lost in all of that muck, because all of the perks in the game, you can get access to all of them. So if you see strength here, I'm level 12 on this character, and I've got all of these perks that I can grab, all the ones I have grabbed, and all the ones that are still available to me as I level up. Like Hercules, Roman Hercules. You can sit all the way down to minimum level of 18. So once I get to 18 strength, I'll be able to do that. You'll be able to get every single one of these. So just choose the ones that fit how your character is progressing. Like, you know what? Right now I'm using a lot of blunt weapons. So let me choose Grand Slam, which gives me blunt weapon damage. Or maybe I'm doing a lot more unarmed right now. So then go ahead and do that. Just flex into each and every one. Flex on strength, that's funny. Flex into each and every one of these feats as it makes sense for your character. I'm just using strength as an example here, but it's the same thing for agility, vitality, or swords, or craftsmanship, or scholarship. As you can see, I've got perks to choose, stuff like that. The only time this is not the case is when you'll be able to choose stuff like, say, pacifist or warmonger, which say at the bottom over here, exclusive with. So you will be locked into a decision when it comes to like pacifist or warmonger. For example, too, I chose Radzig's heritage. I cannot choose Martin's heritage anymore. Or criminal element versus good natured. That's the only time you would not be able to choose a feat, is if you have an exclusivity behind it. So go crazy with these, choose all the ones that you want, and experiment with your builds. Bandits are all over the game. And in the early portions of the game, right after you get out of the prologue, you're probably wondering, how am I going to get any gear? This is a great way to get access to some gear by just simply wandering the roads in between the locations for your main quest, your side quests, whatever. By simply walking down, you'll come across some bandits and just start throwing fisticuffs. You'll get whatever armor and arms that they've got, and this is your first initial step in getting some good gear. You'll pretty much just snowball this to the point where it's just a form of getting you some money, and then eventually, of course, it won't be anything other than just killing stuff for some combat experience. So initially, this is a great way to get some good experience in the actual fighting of the game, but also, of course, in how to understand getting some early loot online for your character. Now, we talked about bandits. One thing to know about them is anytime you see any of these little camps, let's say enemy camp, these will repopulate over time, usually around 12 to 24 hours. Bandits, humans, all sorts of creatures, all sorts of tomfoolery hooligans will re-inhabit these camps. So you can use this as a process to practice specific ways of sneaking up and attacking things, practicing using specific weapon setups, or maybe working on your combos. But also, of course, you can loot these things and get a lot of loot. And there's plenty of these across the map. I don't want to show my whole map because I don't want to spoil it. But again, try to use these enemy camps as a source of potential loot, a source of combat, a source of training, a source of practicing your archery, whatever it is. But you can now know that these do replenish. We talked about replenishing bandit camps, but another thing that will replenish is this blacksmith chest. For those that don't know, if you press Control F1, it will pop you into photo mode. But this blacksmith chest, when you go to visit Radovan, which is the very first thing you should be able to do, replenishes with all of the materials that you'll have access to. So if you want some beginning materials to practice your craftsmanship, this is a great way to do so. When it comes to dealing with all of the many NPCs in this game, popping into the dialogue options for them can sometimes become a little cumbersome when it comes to simply just wanting to trade, repair, or do something quickly. So that's why you have access to the left Alt button. Now, I don't know what this is on console, unfortunately. It'll pop up in the lower right-hand corner, so just go ahead and do whatever it is on console. Let's take Radovan real quickly here. Maybe I just want to quickly jump into trade. By using this button, which I'll show off in a second here, it allows me to quickly bypass the entire dialogue option, which would otherwise slow down this process. So let me show you. We'll come up to him, hold down left Alt, and press 2 to go to trade, and we can immediately start trading. Otherwise, I have to do this. Screen goes black, he talks a little bit, and then I have to go to trade. So it just speeds up this process quite a bit because you will be doing this a lot with a ton of different NPCs throughout this game. So you might as well cut down on any of the crap that you don't have to deal with by using that left Alt button. In the earliest portions of the game, it is wise to harvest as many herbs as you can. Now, for those of us that are coming over from Kingdom Come Deliverance 1, you know that this was a way to get a lot of capability, power, early stats, money, all sorts of things. In this game, it's not so important for a lot of those things, but it is important for early money. As you can see, Eyebright here is worth 0.2, and I've got 16 of them, so it does add up over time. It can be tedious, but just remember that when you're gathering groups of herbs, if they are very tightly packed together, you will gather the entire cluster. Jumping back over here to my menu screen or inventory screen, you can see we have tons of different ones. St. John's wort always sells for quite a bit. I'm not going to go through which one's best. I'm just saying just pick up a whole bunch of them. And this then can be contributed to your character in your skills in survival. Now, again, for those that are coming from the first game, you know of the two I'm about to talk about. But flower power here, if you have more than 30 fresh or dried herbs, not spoiled, in your inventory, your charisma will count as 2 more. So this is a great way to help out with your speech. Gathering those herbs will get you access to this because you need to get a minimum level of level 8 in survival to get it. And another one here too is leg day, which also requires minimum level of 10. When collecting herbs, you will gain a small amount of experience and strength skill. Now, it's not enough to be as abused as it was in the first game, but it does add up if you're just kind of jumping around and doing the potential or the occasional herb gathering here or there. I would not recommend getting leg day and just spending all the time gathering herbs to try and power level your strength. It was not like the first game, and it really is, personally speaking, a very boring way to play this game when there is just so much at your fingertips to increase your strength outside of that. Now, we just talked about herbs, but when it comes to herbs and particularly saving the game, Savior Schnapps is a good example of a very early potion that you get during the prologue, and it has 2 pretty easily accessible but kind of tedious ingredients. Nettle is very abundant. Belladonna, not so much. So what you want to do, and especially for herbs that you want to use for a lot of potions that you want to craft, you want to dry them. So going back to my inventory, we can see my mint, my sage, my St. John's wort, it all has different levels of condition. And that condition, once it drops below like 40, 35, it'll start to spoil. It'll turn red and it's not too good at that point. You run the risk of concocting poor potions or just outright losing the herb. But if you dry them at drying racks, you can see here that the condition stays at 100 and you pretty much have these herbs infinitely. And getting access to these racks, they're all over the place. There's one right here, but come down to the very, very first city. There's 3 in the first city. There's another one right here at your very first alchemy bench. So there's drying racks everywhere. Take advantage of them. You can use them to dry out all these herbs. You can use smoke. Smoke rack? Is that a smoke? No, that's a butcher. You can use smoke houses, which are somewhere around here, to do the same thing when it comes to food. So there's tons of ways that you can preserve items that would otherwise deplete in your inventory. Remember, in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, you have access to your outfits, and outfits allow you to have different ways to approach the game on the fly. So right now you can see my general outfit, my war outfit, outfitted with spectacles, which nothing says intimidating warrior like a lovely set of spectacles. But still, this is my outfit that I'm going to be using for the way I'm going to approach majority of things in the game. But maybe I want to start doing some sneaking. Well, I can simply press O to change my outfit, and now I've got my sneak skill or my sneak kit all set up, and this is what I use for lock picking, robbing people, stealing stuff, whatever. Conversely too, you can press these little plaques below their feet and it will swap to each one of your different outfits. I want to encourage you to think about your outfits early in the game because it's something that I didn't think about until 20 hours in, and I wish I had just spent some time on it a little bit earlier because it allowed me to just quickly pivot here and there versus carrying a lot of stuff on one thing. It just ended up being a lot more cumbersome than I needed to. So I want to put this in this tips video to help you get some kind of not evidence, help you get some encouragement to use your outfits early and you really work on stuff like your agility, strength, or whatnot. While these might seem like little inconsequential things, the nests that you're going to find around the map are actually loaded with random little bits of cool loot. You can either shoot them down with a bow and arrow or use a pebble. And to use that pebble, or throw a rock for that matter, you'll have to go into stealth. And if you're playing on a mouse and keyboard on a PC, you'll use G. I'm not sure what that is on console, unfortunately. The game will tell you, so just go ahead and use whatever the game tells you. But just go ahead and angle this to try to knock down any of these nests. It can be a wild ride to get to these nests. Trust me, as you can see, sometimes you just kind of run down ramps or run down hills, whatever. But these things can be filled sometimes with inconsequential stuff like eggs, but it also can give you spectacles, which will give you a massive increase to your charisma and help out with the study skill or whatever it's called, logic, or you know what a great video this is with so much cutting edge, great information that I completely forgot the thing in the game. But either way, you can use this too to find crafting ingredients, all sorts of things. So anytime you find a nest, feel free to knock it down and see if you get something. It's really good in the early portions. This falls off very quickly, but it's something that can help you get a little bit of a bump ahead. Leveling up your stats is going to be pretty crucial to the weapons that you want to use on your character, but it's important to know that leveling your stats is not so much of a one-to-one. Of course, strength is going to level up with combat. Agility is going to level up with using a bow and arrow. Vitality, here you gain more experience through combat, performing advanced techniques or combos, and of course through regular training such as running and overcoming obstacles. Speech, of course, is going to be helped out by doing skill checks and conversation. But all 4 of these are oftentimes interlinked. If I were to completely overweigh my character with, let me just say my character's capacity was 100 and I put myself to 150, that actually passively increases my strength and my vitality. Agility is going to level up very easily if I use marksmanship, sure, but it's going to level up a lot faster if I pickpocket and if I rob and if I go crack open some locks. So try to do these things to level up your stats because your stats are very important unless you get perks like stuff like Deft Hands here, which will reduce the requirement of the stat on specific items. So until you get access to those perks, you're going to want to level these up. So make sure you do spend some time, maybe not specifically leveling them in the sense that you grind them, but there were points where I realized, hey, my agility is really low. So I went on like a robbing spree. I didn't go say, okay, my strength is low and go gather a bunch of herbs. I just overloaded my character and played from there. Like, I tried to make leveling these a part of the gameplay loop versus having it pull me off track and spend a bunch of time on it. You can level these up quite quickly by simply playing the game with the mindset of focusing on what levels them. Since we've talked about our primary stats, it's worth bringing up our secondary stats. Now, conspicuousness, visibility, noise, these things are relatively self-explanatory. But just to kind of go over them on a high level, noise is, of course, the higher your noise, the more noise you make. It is more obvious when people can hear you, and they'll turn around and notice you, and it makes it harder to steal from them. Visibility is the same thing, right? Like, okay, if you are highly visible, then they are going to spot you at a much faster process. And conspicuousness helps you kind of move through areas you shouldn't be without being noticed. Visibility, in my opinion, is it's like basically if visibility is low, then conspicuousness isn't as much of a big deal. But conspicuousness allows you to be discovered by a guard and then quickly move away from them without getting pissed off. Versus visibility is they won't see you outright. You can see if I swap my outfit, how it swaps those around, right? My visibility drops down to 58, my noise to 22 because I'm not wearing heavy armor, and my conspicuousness to 19. The most important stat here, though, to understand is charisma, because what you'll see on a lot of items here, let me just go to armor and just click on some stuff. You can see that there's a thing that says charisma, 13, 8, all that stuff. Well, what that means is, if you look at this, it says, your total charisma is the average of the charisma values of the individual pieces of your clothing or armor that are visible. So this allows you to get an idea of how charisma works because you're layering it based off of these opulent pieces of armor, these extravagant pieces of clothing, whatever it is that would otherwise increase your charisma. Because I was wondering, like, man, why am I putting all these charisma stuff up and my charisma skill stat is not increasing over here at this corner? It's because it's an average of all of the visible, particularly visible pieces of equipment. It says right there, layers hidden under others don't count. So a man's shirt under a beggar's coat doesn't help you. You must take good care of your clothing, as damaged, stained, or bloodied clothing has a lower charisma value. So that's another thing too, is when you're looking at those derived stats, just know if something's caked in mud or blood, go wash it and it will have a higher value in its charisma. And it will show you reminiscent of the value right here. Charisma, dirt, blood, and percentages, and how those will all factor against the total number of charisma there, which is 8 out of 8 right now, versus this one says 16 out of 17 because the condition is all beat up. Or this one says 10 out of 10. So just make sure you constantly are washing yourself, going to soap, going to like laundromat basically, and using soap and cleaning your gear, all sorts of things to help increase all of these secondary stats. And at that, it brings our video here to a close. So hopefully these tips give you a better understanding of how to tackle little things in the early portions of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. And so much of it is going to change so quickly for you. And as you understand systems better and better, you'll push through a lot of this stuff a lot faster. Sometimes you get a little hung up on things, whatever it is. But either way, a lot of these tips are things that I wish I had known because they were things that either I didn't know because I didn't play enough Kingdom Come Deliverance 1, or they're things that I didn't know because I maybe didn't pay attention to one of the help tool tips or whatever it was. But a lot of the information in the game is pretty much always at your disposal. So use the codex in your player menu screen. Take advantage of all the help tips that are always at your disposal, again, by pressing the T button on your keyboard, depending if you jump into a mini game, whatever. There's always plenty of help within the game after you push through the points that something is introduced to you. So hopefully this, again, makes your entire beginner process a lot easier. But go ahead and let me know in the comment section below if there's any things that you are struggling with. I will do my best to help you out. I have a combat guide coming out later today. I've got a perks and attribute guide coming out tomorrow, a crafting guide, weapons guide. All those guides are me just explaining those mechanics. I'm not going to be talking to you about, okay, in order to max out X stat or Y skill, you're going to do Z thing first. All of it will purely be based on helping you explore the system versus telling you how to play the system. As I said before, please play the game your way and you will find so much more enjoyment out of it versus playing what the internet tells you to. So as always, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.